What's up, guys? How's it going? This is going to be the last lecture before the test, and the test is going to be the last major grade before Easter break, so stick with me for this one. It's going to be quick. Please watch the whole thing, all right? I mean, for your own benefit for your soul and for your mind, and so that you can get a good grade later so you can fill the notes in. Sorry. Please watch the whole thing if you can, all right? All right, so here's the deal. And please excuse my appearance. Yeah, this is quarantine's it's getting to me. Okay, I just didn't feel like putting gel in my hair today. That's pretty much all it is, but it's probably because it's getting to me. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. All right, so we already got through the first 5 commandments. All we have to do, wait, hold on, let me share again. Literally all we have to do now is get the last 5, and I'm gonna make it as quick as I can because I'm a little tired, and I know you probably are too. Okay, here we go. Can't tell if I did that right or not, but we're here now. Okay, so we already went through honor your father and mother. Okay, shall not kill, blah, blah, blah. All right, we are on the 6th commandment, that is do not commit adultery. Okay, so the way that the Jewish people would have taken this would have literally meant don't have sexual relations with anybody you're not married to. And that's pretty much where it stopped. As Christians, we take that a step further. And I gave you the example in yesterday's lecture how Jesus actually uses adultery as an example of how he takes the Jewish commandments that we Christians still go by these things, but he takes it a step further, injects more love into it, and makes it all about the heart, not just about following this rule because it's the rule that God gives you. Sure, you should do that, but doing it because the general idea of it, of love, right? So Jesus says, okay, in the Old Testament, you heard don't commit adultery, all right? That was hard enough for the Jews to do. And Jesus says, I'm going to take that a step further. I'm going to say if you even look at a woman with lust, you have committed adultery in your heart. So he's saying don't even just not commit adultery, don't even have any lust in your heart. You can say the same thing for do not kill, right? Not only don't kill somebody or physically harm someone, but don't even have anger in your heart towards them. So Jesus is all about he takes it a step further, but he actually makes it easier to do these things because he comes into your heart and kicks out the darkness and makes it possible for you to actually be good and not have lust in your heart and not have anger in your heart and actually be happy doing it. So that's difference, okay? So of course, don't commit adultery. That's the actual commandment, but this means a lot of things, okay? First thing, in the way the Jewish people would have seen it before Jesus is don't cheat on your husband or wife. Very good, of course, okay? But we also would say to try to be pure in your body and in your mind totally, meaning don't lust over anybody, as Jesus said. What does that mean? That means refrain from pornography, especially masturbation, okay, and other impure actions. So with another person, it could be anything. I don't know, I'm on YouTube now, so I'm not going to get too into it, but I would say anything past kissing, can become lust very fast and can become a mortal sin very fast. So refrain from all fornication, right? If you do mess up, get right to confession. And that'll give you the hope and the strength to renew yourself, renew the light inside of you so that you can actually tackle it, and actually not commit those sins if you're addicted to them. Confession is the key. Confession and followed up with prayer if you need help doing that. But stay away from all those things. Why? Because you're using somebody else, or you're allowing yourself to be used, and vice versa. Any kind of pictures, sending pictures, things like that, completely not good. And it's not because God just wants you to feel bad. Remember, he's trying to protect you. He's trying to protect you from having negative spiritual dirt inside of you that brings you down. And he's protecting you from being used. And he wants you to be loved and give the love that's truly going to make you happy. That stuff will never make you happy. It'll always make you feel empty. If you base a relationship on just the physical, for example, you're going to know very quickly you're not loved. It won't last. All right. Because as soon as that excitement of the physical, starts to tone down, the person breaks up with you, you break up with them. So relationships, need to be pure. All right. Pure and holy and good. Both people should be leading each other to God. Right. And then eventually marriage, which is a beautiful, great thing that God has given us to bring a lot of goodness into the world and still be able to have that relationship you want to have, even a sexual relationship, Okay, so all impurity we're not cool with. Impure thoughts. If a thought comes in your head, a bad thought, it's not a sin yet because like you don't really choose to think about those thoughts. Sometimes they kind of just pop in there. It only becomes a sin once you like choose to let that thought stay and you kind of mess around with it in your mind. All right, if you kick it right out when it comes in, it's not a sin, and you did a good job of avoiding that temptation and overcoming that temptation. Christ in your heart can help you to do that. Okay. So refrain from any kind of sexual activity outside of marriage is what this commandment means. Okay, the seventh commandment. You shall not steal. Of course, that means don't take stuff. It's kind of self-explanatory. This is probably the most self-explanatory commandment out there. I think Dennis Prager does a really good job explaining all the things you could actually steal that you didn't really probably think was stealing, and how to avoid those things. So this actually, one thing I will say though is do not cheat, because if you steal another person's answers on a test, that's cheating. All right, you're stealing someone else's answers. Remember, as we said, cheating or breaking 3 commandments. You're stealing someone else's answers, or you're stealing answers from the book, or most of all, you're lying, because like you'd be lying to me, you'd be lying to the school, the Holy Cross, saying that these are your answers that you studied for, when really you're cheating, looking at the book or getting off somebody else. And of course, you're putting grades above your soul. You're saying, I'm gonna damage my soul and disconnect my relationship with God so I can get like 10 points higher on this test. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it, right? Just do good on the next test. Bomb it with dignity, right? And just if you do that, actually, here's the crazy part: you bomb a test, if you pledge to God that you're gonna do your very best to like work hard on the next test, and you actually do, you really actually try after that to do well, God's gonna have to take care of you, because you could have, sinned and you didn't. So he's gonna take care of you. He really will. Just don't bomb it. It's not worth it. I mean, don't cheat. I'm sorry. It's not worth it. All right. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. This just means, now, like it said in the video, the wording here, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, that like literally means like you're up there in court and you testify and lie about like what another person did, right? That's really, really bad. But in general, this means don't lie, period. All right, tell the truth. Fun fact, in the ancient church, the first couple hundred years, for those great saints that we always talk about that like started the church, the martyrs, the truth was really important to them. Like lying was one of the worst things you could do to them. So this also means don't exaggerate. Okay, we can all be guilty of that, especially if you don't like somebody and you're gossiping about them. So now you're digging like a really bad hole. When you're really ticked off at somebody and you want to get back at them and so you start like talking about them, you are not only gossiping, which is a sin, which is be a sin against the 5th commandment, like do not kill, because you're like killing their reputation or hurting them emotionally. But now you're starting to lie too, because like when you're biased against somebody, it is so easy, and you guys know it. It's so easy to exaggerate what you did. Just think of maybe a sibling that you don't get along with, or like or sometimes don't get along with, or like a friend, or even just someone, a peer that can't stand you. Everything that you do, they exaggerate, right? And when they talk about you, they exaggerate it. Really, guys, try not to exaggerate. I got to tell myself that as well. Just trust the Lord, tell the truth, and just trust that he's going to take care of things. You don't need to exaggerate anything to make a point, especially if you're gossiping about somebody you probably shouldn't be gossiping to begin with. And again, do not cheat. And that means like on a test, right? And okay, number 9. So here's the difference between how the Jewish people take it, and Dennis Prager in these videos, and how we take it. They divide our first commandment into 2 different commandments. First commandment is, I am the Lord your God, do not have any other gods. They actually divide that into the first and second commandment. We just see that as the first commandment. So actually, they're one ahead of us, right? For them, the 9th commandment is don't lie. Ours is the 8th. Well, where does it even out? It evens out here, because they take this commandment to be one thing. Do not covet, right? Do not be jealous of anything. We actually divide them into 2. Don't be jealous of your neighbor's wife, or obviously husband, and don't be jealous of your neighbor's stuff. Okay, so we divide that into 2 for good reasons, because they're both of those things are so toxic and a little different. So we'll get into it. So guard your, don't covet your neighbor's wife, or if you're a girl, this obviously means your neighbor's husband too. Guard yourself against all lustful, possessive, or controlling thoughts. If you're married, especially, I would also say, like, don't be jealous of another person's boyfriend or girlfriend. Try really hard not to be jealous, because when you start to have envy, it doesn't feel good at all. It's a nasty feeling. It doesn't do any good for you. It just brings you down. right? You need to trust God that what he's given you right now is enough, okay? If you start getting along, you start thinking really hard how you need this guy, you need this girl, especially, oh my gosh, if you're married, another person's married, now you're starting to break up marriages, and that's really a huge mortal sin, okay? And just in general, even if the person's not married, if it's meant to be, it's like a song, right? For a couple of years ago, like, if it's meant to be, like, who sings that? Um, was it like Florida Georgia Line or something like that, right? Like if it's meant to be, it'll happen, right? If it's part of God's plan, this person will break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend and they'll end up with you. Most of the time it doesn't happen. That's not the end of the world. It's because they're not meant for you. You just think they are, but they're not. And you're going to be absolutely fine, totally happy, just you and God until the right person does come. So having jealous thoughts does nothing good for you. It's just awful, crappy feelings to have. And it just does nothing but causes you to act weird and try to steal other people's boyfriends or girlfriends, or especially husbands and wives. All right, so guard yourself against those things. Same exact thing here. It's what I pretty much said. Second point: guard yourself against wishing you had someone else's boyfriend or girlfriend, or especially their husband or wife. The reason this is its own commandment is because, as I said before, God and the videos say, God is really, really, really into making sure families stay together. God knows how much it tears somebody up when there's huge family problems, and we all have huge family problems, big and small. Some of us really big, and that's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. If your parents have broken up or you have issues in your family, it doesn't mean you're to blame or anything like that. But God does understand your pain, and He understands how much it's hard to find happiness and peace inside when your parents, your family, your siblings, or whatever, it's when that's all messed up. So God has a lot of commandments because he loves you so much, and he loves children so much, and he loves families. He wants to keep everything tightly knit to protect that. All right, that's why these commandments are so important. He's trying to protect the family, especially with the ninth commandment. Okay, the 10th commandment. All right. Oh, and if you do have a lot of like really big family issues, just remember that Jesus heals everything. If you go to Jesus for whatever might be going on here, the struggles that you go through, that God does understand. All right, the confusion, the depression, the anxiety that can come from family problems, please go to Jesus, go to confession, talk to people. He has his ways of filling that hole that family problems might leave. Okay, so it's never hopeless. All right, so do not covet your neighbor's goods. That means don't be jealous of your neighbor's stuff, not just stuff. We're going to take that a step farther. Well, first we'll say stuff. Don't be jealous of another's house, job, or money. Right? You don't need all these things to be happy. In fact, when someone else has more stuff, they're richer or whatever, you know what Jesus says? He doesn't say it's bad or a sin to be rich, but Jesus, will learn later, actually kind of says, like, if you're rich, it's harder to get to heaven because you tend to be like really distracted by all the stuff that you have. You know, you got this, you got that, your mind's on money, and it's on business, and it's on all these kinds of things, and you get one thing, one car, you need the next car, you need the next phone, you need the next this or that. And like these things like distract you from God, which is the only thing that's going to matter in the end, is your soul, right? What if you're poor though? If you're poor, are you automatically a good person? No. Can poor people go to hell? Sure. But you know what Jesus says? He says, like, okay, it's not a sin to be rich or anything. It's fine. If you're a successful person, great, good for you. But the less money and stuff you have, the more you're going to focus on God for your happiness, and so that you kind of have an advantage there, right? So don't be jealous of someone else who has more stuff, more popularity, more money, more talents, because odds are they're not as happy as you think. Just going to say it. They are not as happy as they look from the outside, and they're probably not going to God for their happiness because they're distracted. Meanwhile, you are, and that's the only happiness that lasts. There's no reason. Again, jealous feelings are just pointless. Pointless. They don't do any good for you. All right. The second thing is this, which what I kind of just hinted at. We don't think this way too much, but we don't think about this as far as the commandments, but this happens all the time. Don't be jealous of another's looks, their popularity, or their talents. I already went through this with the whole Instagram thing, right? If someone with hundreds of likes on Instagram, if this was making them truly happy, they would put one post up and never post again. Because, hey, I'm permanently happy now. That post gave me everything I needed. What happens? The next day, sometimes later that day, they're posting again because that rush they got from like, oh, I got 400 likes. It's gone. They need it again 2 days later. So clearly they're not permanently happy. All right. Usually they're not. I'm going to say it again. People are not as happy normally, in a deep way at least, because popularity can't give you that deep happiness than God can. The peace, right? Popularity can't give you that. People are not usually as happy as they look from the outside, especially on social media. And there's actually studies coming out to confirm that. I mean, look at Hollywood celebrities. They are like more depressed and more drug use, things like that, than the average person, because they look so happy and successful. They have money, they have fame, they have popularity, and it just doesn't do it for them, right? So unless they have like a relationship with God or something more important to live for, that stuff all just gets boring and feels empty. So don't waste your time wishing you had that stuff. All right. And what that means at the end, you see there is, just be happy with the way God made you, right? Just trust him. He's made you the way he's made you. You're good the way you're supposed to be, right? To work on your flaws, right? Work on your sins especially. But, you know, when you do have your flaws like me, like I'm forgetful. I'm very forgetful. I'm absent-minded, okay? I'm kind of a klutz, all right? I'm aware of that. I'm not jealous of people that are like really on the ball, because I have my own talents and they have their own talents. And me being absent-minded and forgetful and kind of clumsy sometimes, like that actually helps me to be humble, which helps my soul. So I actually sometimes thank God for that. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, like I don't get upset about it. I'm like, oh, well, you know, everyone needs their flaws, because then we stay humble and we learn to rely on God, and that helps us in the end. So don't worry, you're made exactly as you're supposed to be. And don't ever wish you were somebody else, because there are people, there are talents that only you have, and there are people that you're going to impact that only you can impact, for God. So don't waste your time on that. All right, guys, real quick little note, for your test. I'm going to share the screen real quick, my main screen. Here I am. For your test, it's gonna be tomorrow. So please study the study guide that I'm posting. All right, which has like, it's not gonna have everything on your test. It's gonna have a lot of what your test covers. It's going to start with this slide. Okay. The chosen people starts to grow. Everything from Jacob up until the commandments. Okay. So here, this slide about Egypt, about Moses, about the burning bush, the 10 plagues, journey to the promised land, Sinai covenant, and the 10 commandments. That's going to be your test. Please study all your notes. Please don't cheat. It's not worth it. It really isn't. Just do your best. Just study beforehand. That's literally all you got to do, and then you don't have to cheat. All right. Okay. So that's it for today. That's it for this lecture. Hope you enjoyed it, sort of, or at least learned something from it. Hope it benefited your soul, and have a great rest of your day. Good luck on the test tomorrow.